Hi, Sharon. Who else is there? And Shayna. Hi. That's so interesting. I wonder why there's so many Rebecca Zakheims on this call. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, I see 4.
There's so...
That's so strange. Does everyone see their name correctly? I'm seeing a lot of Rebecca's. Is everyone else seeing that? Yeah.
As the original Rebecca Zakheim, I find this very disorienting, but we'll work through it. I also, as the meeting host, we can also rename everybody. So if you so desire to be referred to by your name, you can just take yourself off mute and tell us your name and I'll just rename you real quick. But unfortunately the chat won't work for this because if you chat your name, I still won't know which Rebecca, but it looks like everyone's renamed themselves. So that's great. Thank you so much. And Moira, I'm glad you made it in. I was just about to email you. Great. So we're expecting a few. Yeah.
So I have a real quick question. Is this good for our kids too, or is this really just aimed at parents?
No, please join, put their name in as your name as well. And we're ready to talk to anyone and everyone who's interested in camp. We're waiting for a few more people to join the call. And so what we're going to do, just so we're not just sitting in awkward static space, is we're going to share with you a video from a project that was built at camp a couple of years prior. It's not the project we did last summer. It is not the project we're doing this upcoming summer, but we find that this video is like a really lovely mini doc, just to give you already a sort of impression of what camp is like. Well, I think you need to share your audio to Zoom as well.
Please hold, so sorry.
Or would you like me to try?
Yeah, I think it's being messed up from my headphones.
All right, let's see. Okay. All right, can you all see this slideshow I have open here? Okay. So we are going to show you a video. This is a video that was made from our project Salvage Station 8. It was, we used to run camp for 2 sessions every summer, and so this was the second session project, and we made this in 2017. And it is still kind of approximately standing at camp, but we can go into that after the video.
Can anyone see the video?
No.
Oy vey. I'm so sorry, everyone. Rebecca, it's a screen. It's a square.
What about, that's so strange. All right, I think we're 10 minutes into this call. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to drop a link for this video into the chat. We also have it on our website and on our on our YouTube channel. But I think for the sake of actually hearing about camp, this is a really wonderful video to watch. We think it's really, it gives a good impression of camp, but not a better one than what we're about to tell you for the rest of this hour. What you would see in Salvage Station 8 video, and what you would be hearing is campers and staff talking about the project that they collaborated on building, and campers really owning the language around the fabrication, as well as the sort of narrative of the project. Oftentimes, we make these really big, ambitious projects. They're really exciting and they're very cool. And there's a lot of manual labor, technical skill and craft that comes into play with them. But there's also very much a narrative element to these projects, a sort of storytelling, if you will, which campers are also invited into. Both they learn the artist's concept behind the project and sort of what drove the design of the project, but they also are invited in to contributing to what this narrative arc is over the summer. One such project that happened with was the project that we made this past summer. Pearl, I feel like we've been having better luck with your screen being shared. Would you mind sharing? Thank you. So this past summer, we made a project called A Universe. It was designed by Yikin Zhu. This past summer was very exciting as well because he also designed the project we built on Governor's Island in summer 2021. And so we had this really gorgeous exchange between New Hampshire, our kind of community away from the city, as well as a connection to the project that was being built on Governor's Island, which very solidly is a community within the city. And hopefully you don't need to hear anything that's going on in this video. This is just a nice little walking tour. At the end of camp, we have a really intentional, sharing of the project and celebration all together, where it's like, of course, everyone knows it's complete. They've been around it complete because they all are the ones who built it, but really an intentional time where we all gather there and we really interact with the project and celebrate the hard work that we've all put in. It's also, people are engaged to varying degrees because they have just spent a month building the project. But there's very much this feeling of excitement getting to see in full, this thing that we've all, our hands, likely our sweat, that has all gotten mixed into this project. A Universe is a gourd-shaped cob structure that they built, and what you see being tapped on over there is they're like wind chimes. There are channels that were kind of molded into the top of a universe, the top of this project, so that when rain would fall, it would run off towards the windows and it would hit these sort of wind chimes or bells, so that when it was raining, there would also be this additional auditory element to the project. And the bells, the components were made in our art barn with our kilns. So, you know, they're ceramic bells, but also those little metal pieces that are clanging against one another were made in our metal shop, which is called Barney's. And this is, it's a gorgeous cob structure. It's coated in limestone. This will last for decades, we anticipate, if not longer, which is similar to some of our projects, but not all of them. Many of our projects, you know, they build and then we build them from materials that degrade over time. It just so happens that a universe, Bread and Brawn, which is our pizza oven that we still use, Salvage Station 8, which is the video we tried to show you, very solidly built and still present on camp. This upcoming summer, we're doing a project designed by Macon Reed. Macon is a really, oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself, but Macon is our project master this summer. As you can see here, she works on a very large scale, or is experienced working on a large scale, and also has this really gorgeous, like bright, saturated color palette. We haven't announced what her project is yet, but I can offer that, you know, it says here in kind of her very brief mission statement. She creates immersive sculptural environments that are activated through performance and public participation. This transfers pretty directly to what we'll be doing in New Hampshire, with site-specific projects being built into the environment, which is already more than we've been telling other people. That's very much like a spoiler that I've just offered. But yes, we're building projects into the natural environment of camp, and this project will in fact likely be scattered in multiple locations around camp. And these aspects of performance and public participation will be co-designed with campers as well. So this is this project in many ways has a lot of active invitations in which campers are also co-authoring the project. And that was very important to Macon. Macon's a lovely, wonderful person who has done a bunch of large collaborative projects. And so we're excited to see her within the sphere of Beam Camp. And so that's the big projects. I think unless there are already any very pressing questions related to what I've just said, the plan that Pearl and I have laid out is that we are going to talk you through a day in the life at camp. That's going to be the way in which we can introduce you to most of the things that we feel you should know and that you likely want to know about camp. After that, we'll spend a little bit of time, after that, we'll take some questions, and then we'll spend a little bit of time talking about health at camp. We know, we live in the midst of COVID. This is very important. We want to talk about how we were successful with our COVID protocol last summer, and also things we already know you can anticipate this upcoming summer, but we also want to talk very specifically about mental health at camp as well, kind of, individual development and how we support one another at camp, and also offer for you some of the things we talk about during our staff training, because we have a staff that very enthusiastically asks for more training. They want to feel as prepared as possible to be the most supportive for campers, and we want to offer what some of the ways we do that are. So are there any questions up until this point? Okay. All right, so then we're gonna just keep going. Pearl, would you like to jump in?
Yes, here I am. So we have 4 main programming areas at camp. The easiest one to talk about is Pulse in our swim. So Pulse is just what we refer to as our sports and recreation time. So during this period, the campers are playing some kind of game or activity that's going to get their pulse raised, which is why we call it Pulse. It entails more traditional games like baseball and frisbee and kickball, but we've also had yoga and counselors lead dance and long hikes up our very tall mountain. And then encompassed in that is our swim period. So we have 2 huge, one bigger lake, one smaller lake. They're both beautiful. We use our Big Willie for swimming, and our Little Willie is mainly used for boating, just because it is a little, it's not as, it's more grimy in the bottom, and there's a lot of, we just don't use it as much. But there is a blueberry island in the middle that kids like to boat out to and collect blueberries off of. So it's mainly boating. In our Big Willie, we have 3 separate sections for kids to swim in, and that's based on what level they earn when they take their swim test at the very beginning of camp, which we'll talk about a little bit. So we have the sunfish section, which is a very shallow section, the trout section, which is our inside our U-dock, and our bass section, which is beyond our U-dock that has 2 floating docks. And far in the distance is our iceberg that we built in 2019. So that encompasses Pulse and swim. We encourage kids to be playing games at this time, but we do have options that are just kind of sitting by the beach and reading if that's what they choose to do. Our second program area is domains, which is something we will be bringing back this year, post-COVID. Last year, we did not have domains because it requires us having some guests on camp, and we were trying to maintain a bubble and not have visitors for COVID purposes. But this year, we will be bringing back safely some guests to offer workshops based in performance and arts and sciences and all sorts of great things, to lead workshops for your kids to choose during the week. So at the very beginning of each week, we have a domain fair. The kids will hear from each artist and visitor about their activity. And after everyone has talked about their activities, the kids get to choose 2 that they will participate in for the whole week. So some activities we've had in the past, we've had boat making, sausage making, solar powered cooking, screen printing. It ranges widely, so we hope that your camper can find some kind of activity that they'll enjoy doing. And they're all a little outside of our normal project-based learning that I'll now talk about in independent work and the project. So independent work is our third program area. This is when the campers get to work on their very own project that they design and they come up for the idea for. We have 4 spaces that they can choose from that they can utilize to make this project. We encourage them to stick to one, but of course, many projects are going to require more than one. So our first one is the Tectainer. It's a fab lab. So we have a 3D printer, a laser cutter, a few computers that have access to programming if kids are interested in doing that and design programs. That's our first one. The second one is our art barn, which is a catch-all for most of our arts and crafts. That's where the general sewing, knitting, drawing, painting, all ceramics, stuff like that. We have a kiln that Rebecca mentioned there too. A lot of kids like to make pottery to take home, which is really wonderful. And then our Barneys is our metal shop, which Rebecca also mentioned. That's where, if you so desire, you will be, or your child will be welding, learning how to weld in a very safe manner. And our workshop, which is where all our saws and our tools are also used for, with a lot of support from our specialists and our counselors and our program leaders. So at the beginning of camp, your camper will decide what they want to make, and they choose one of those guild spaces that I just mentioned to be in for at least the first 2 weeks, and maybe change it up the third week. With a lot of support from our staff, they're guided through making their own project. To list some examples, we've had some really great wood projects. Skateboards have been super popular, furniture, folding tables. A lot of kids also have interest in photography, which we wrap into Art Barn, our miscellaneous. And there's also opportunity for theatrical, singing projects if that's what they want to work on. And also, if your kid comes to camp and they have math homework to do for their upcoming first year in high school or whatever it may be, that is a time where they can utilize their own space and time to get these things done if they have a short independent work project that they want to work on and also want to do some school work or other personal work. The final thing, program area that Rebecca did just speak about is our project. So every day your camper will get to work on the project led by our project team. And it utilizes the 4 guild spaces, but because this programming occurs side by side, it'll probably mostly focus on our at our project site with support from all our counselors, and our program team leads groups of campers through workshops during that period. So all 4 of these programming areas take place every single day, and your camper undergoes them every single day. So we have a 6-day week, and our 7th day is when we don't have project or independent work. It's what we call our fun day. We have a theme of some sort that's either organized by leadership team, us, or our counselors, or our oldest campers called our fellows. And it's a fun day to kind of help everyone relax. There's a lot of swimming and relaxing and having a lot of fun in our guild spaces beyond our usual programming. So that is the general gist. Rebecca is going to talk about the day in the life a little more.
Yeah, so so Pearl just kind of offered what the major, these are the major program areas that are present in every camper's day. I just want to offer what a day really looks like, just to sneak in a few more details about camp, and also kind of give you a bit more to kind of simmer on, think about if you have any questions for us. So our camp day starts. The way the day starts is we play our piano, which is also a former project. I think it's about a 20-foot tall architectural bell, is the best way I can put it, where there's a pulley system and you pull ropes at the bottom. These ropes lead about 20 feet up to the top of the sculpture, where they are attached to hammers. As you pull ropes, the hammers swing and they hit pots and pans that are secured to the top. So every morning your kids are waking up to the sound of clanging pots and pans. And that sound is how we also pace our day. We use a just to indicate when it's time to make a transition. And so our day starts, like Pearl was saying, we start our day. We have a very quick staff check-in while that's happening. All the campers are being led through, a warm-up, some meditation, a primal scream, talking about the book they read the night prior. And then we head to the dining hall. If anybody needs to take morning medication, the nurses' lodge is conveniently on the way to the dining hall. It's actually impossible to miss. And so some campers will file over there, so we'll go straight to the dining hall. We have breakfast together. Breakfast is very basic at camp. We always have yogurt. We'll likely have eggs or hash browns, toast, very classic camp breakfast foods. First, we have community work. So oftentimes that's just cabin maintenance, which, cleaning up after yourself in your living space. Sometimes on rotation, we'll have cabins helping with the dishes from breakfast. Very important, it builds character. They'll be helping us with the compost out and back, or they might be tending to our garden because we do grow our, not an abundance, but we do grow our own vegetables at camp, and greens. And then after that, the day started. So those 3 program areas that Pearl described, that's one of the places that campers will be going to. So they might be going to Swim Pulse. They're starting the day with a nice little dip in Big Willie. And then, running and just reading a book and schmoozing during the Pulse part of that. They might be working on the big project. Or they are in our guild spaces, either doing a domain or doing independent work. We do one of those in the morning, and then we go to lunch. For lunch, we oftentimes have meat on the menu, starch on the menu, definitely, and we are very insistent about those getting eaten as well. And nice lunch period, maybe like 40 minutes. And then we have rest and reading. Rest and reading is a time where everybody heads back up to the village where all the cabins are. Exactly that, they rest and or read. We ask that this is quiet time in the village. In particular, we find our oldest campers do utilize that time for a nap. You do not want to be the person who wakes up one of our oldest campers and nap. They will not be happy, and they will let you know. And so it's a time we hang out. It's, we're starting to enter the really hot hours of the day, so making sure that getting a little bit of rest as well. After that, once again, it's, it's domains, it's guilds, or it's the big project. We do that. We have a snack, which I forgot to mention, but we also have an afternoon snack. That kind of breaks up the time between the 2 chunks in the afternoon, and then they go do the last thing that they did that they haven't yet done that day. After that, it's dinner time. Once again, dinner time, that's maybe the meal that has the most rotating options. And then after dinner, we have quite maybe obviously called after dinner. And after dinner is a time in which we are doing something fun together as a camp, but also maybe not. Examples of after dinner week, we have a campfire. Camp is present for the campfire. Anyone who is on the premises of camp is at our campfire. It's very important community time for us. But we also have after dinners where it might just be a cabin choice night, where counselors are just something special for a cabin to do all together to bond with one another. We do talent shows for after dinner, some very interesting talent. One of the talents last summer was being able to read their Torah portion over Dua Lipa songs. I imagine that's really disorienting and hard. They nailed it. We also have like a fashion show. We give them a bag of random materials. They have to put together an outfit from this. We have so many after dinners. I know I've only named 2. Fashion show, our talent shows, karaoke. We do dances a couple of times. Big dance at the end of the summer as well. We also are very much open to suggestions for after dinner. We don't get them very often, but once in a while. And then that's kind of like, day in and day out, that's what's happening 6 days. And then on the 7th day, like Pearl already said, it's our theme day. I think just to offer you a little bit about just the very beginning, being oriented at camp, we'd like to talk to you about the first day of camp a little bit. The first few days of camp are definitely, especially for new campers, especially campers who haven't been away from home for that long before, they can be somewhat jarring. It can take a little bit of a jump. We have very much designed what our first 3 days are, specifically to address some of the most immediate discomforts that a new camper might have. So the first full day of camp, these are the things that campers are rotating through. You'll see they get an into the wood shop. They also are going to get just a full tour of camp. So really walking around with their cabin during the first few days, it's a lot of very intentional time spent with like cabins, spending them together because they're establishing their home unit effectively. And it's very important that immediately, especially someone who might be coming to camp without knowing other people, we want to make sure that as soon as possible, campers are starting to find people, really developing relationships with their counselors, since their counselors are the most immediate people who can come to if there's anything up with them or who are paying attention to what's going on with them. We want our counselors also develop a rapport with their campers so that they can recognize that maybe they're a little bit off one day. And so most of this is being done either only with their cabin or walking around with their cabin and maybe a few others. So they get a tour of camp. They see all of the sites, all of the shops that they're going to be engaging, all of the different locations we might ask them to go to so that they know where they're going. We don't want anyone getting lost at camp. They'll do a health screening with the camp nurse. We have had a health screening at camp. This past summer, along with the health screening, we had entry COVID tested for camp. We also had asked everybody to get a COVID test prior to camp. I know everyone likely already knows this, but most of our camps could not be vaccinated yet last summer. And so we had a very COVID protocol, which we can talk about a little bit more. So they do a health screening, they get a lice check, which is everyone's favorite. We do pulse. We have a sports period for everybody. We bring them to the waterfront and they do their swim test. A swim test does not determine where you are all summer. It just determines where you're swimming at the beginning of the summer. We made it very clear to campers they always have an opportunity to retest. All they have to do is talk to their front director. We have a safety orientation. It's called It Takes a Village, talking about what safety is at camp, how we maintain it, why it's important. And then, dining hall guidelines. And then there are very specific activities that every bunk does together. They create a skit together based off the name of their cabin. They do very specific bonding with each other. They create community agreements. Every cabin will have different community agreements because they have different needs for their domestic spaces. And these days are very much oriented towards we're trying to keep everyone pretty busy. We don't want idle minds, idle hands. And we also want everybody to just to start taking ownership of the space. The best way to take ownership of camp is to know what's going on. And so we take that very seriously. We don't want campers to feel too disoriented for too long upon arrival to camp. Best case scenario, by the end of the day already, they're just vibing, having a great time, schmoozing with their bunkmates in the dining hall before dinner or during dinner. So that's kind of a day in the life at camp. Pearl and I have really a lot of information for all of you. I think before we delve into health specifically at camp, are there any questions about the program areas that we've talked about, the sorts of activities that campers are doing? It's also totally all right if you have questions right now. There'll be plenty of opportunities. Feel comfortable taking yourself off mute or putting into the chat if you have any questions. We'd love to take a little breather. And if there are no questions, then Pearl and I will just take that as that we've gotten this down pat at this point. Okay, I think we're going to proceed then. Pearl, would you like to start?
Yeah. So health amidst COVID, but also in general, we take very seriously mental and physical at camp. We know a lot of you are probably curious about what our COVID protocol will look like this summer. And while we have not solidified all of these, we are working. We don't know what the world will look like in the next 6 months, but we do already have some guarantees that we will be instating, which is listed here. So we will be requiring every single person at camp to be vaccinated, staff and camper. If not, we have to be provided with a letter of religious or medical exemption. We will be, as I talked about earlier, we will be having some guests this summer, unlike last summer, and we will be taking the right steps to make sure that they are vaccinated, and will be providing us with a negative COVID result before stepping on campus. That also goes for everyone prior to coming to camp. We will still be requiring everyone to provide us with a negative COVID result. Even though everyone will be vaccinated, we would like to make sure we are all COVID-free before we get on a bus together and drive 5 hours together. We will also be prioritizing our outdoor space because we are in such beautiful nature. We have always done this, but last year especially, we had some outdoor dining options, and cabins would sit together to eat, and they would rotate through 4 tables outside and the rest inside, and every meal it would rotate, so some would be inside and some would be outside. We will most likely continue to do that. Our shops have a lot of outdoor extensions that we like to utilize, tables, tents. We do get a lot of rain, so we're always prepared with tons of tents to take that rain on. As for masking, last summer we had very strict requirements that all campers and staff for at least the first 2 weeks, and the last 2 weeks were masked up. For the first 2 weeks, we tested everyone when they got there in the middle of the summer, and we luckily had no cases, but everyone was masked. They were traveling with groups. Their cabins acted as their family. Their physical cabin acted as their home. So the only place they did not have to mask was in the cabin with their cabin mates, when they were eating with their cabin mates, and when they were swimming with their cabin mates. We adopted a cohort style like most kid locations are, schools and camps right now. We will most likely be requiring some masking, definitely at the first week of camp. Again, we have not solidified what it'll look like for the rest of camp because we will all be vaccinated, but we do plan on what Rebecca has been saying is that we're sticking to what the latest, Rebecca put it better, but do you know what I'm talking about, Rebecca?
Well, I mean, I think like Pearl's been saying, we cannot fully anticipate what the climate will be like this upcoming summer. So we are using what we did last summer as our baseline to model our protocol this upcoming summer around. So while we want the protocol to not interrupt camp as much as possible, we also are prioritizing that everyone is arriving to camp safe, and set up in such a way that ideally we don't have to do as much risk mitigation once we are all at camp. This is of course subject to change because we don't know what this upcoming summer will bring or what it'll look like, but we're very optimistic that because everybody will be able to be vaccinated at that point, and that we are asking that everyone coming to camp is vaccinated, that already does a lot of the the risk management prior for us. In addition to COVID safety, though, there are plenty of other things that come up at camp as well. Physical health is really important. Mental health is important. Very briefly on physical health, we do collect, paperwork from you, which reviews prior to camp, and we'll reach out to you if she has any questions about anything that she's seeing on health forms. We have a health lodge and a nurse who is present at camp all the time in order to make sure that everyone is taken care of. We also have a consulting physician in addition to our nurse at camp. he is particularly, Dr. David is particularly really need to get prescriptions for campers because he really expedites that process for us. But we also have, in addition to that, we're very conscious and intentional around mental health at camp. I can offer that last summer, with all of the COVID protocol that we put in place, we were also preparing ourselves for a challenging summer for campers because many of them did school remotely for the entire year and they were not able to see many people beyond immediate family members that they were living with. And so last summer in particular, there was really an additional, on top of what we already do, real intentionality around how we're creating for mental health. We are preparing families and ourselves to accommodate the various needs that each individual camper will have. Our camp intentionally and purposefully small. When we are at full capacity, there's only 108 campers, and there are many people who are touch points for every camper to communicate with, to find as their person that they feel safe checking in with. It doesn't have to be their cabin counselor, although that person is the most immediately available. It could be myself and Pearl. It could be one of the specialists running a shop space. Everybody who's at camp is there because their number one priority is that campers are having a good time and they're feeling cared for. Camps also have rosebud thorn. It's a ritual that we have at camp where everybody is reflecting on and thinking in a reflective way, not just like, oh, I had a good day, I had a bad day, but like, what was it about their day? What sorts of intentions they might have for the next day? And we have a schedule which really tries to prioritize the fact that campers will need downtime in addition to the constant activity that they're going to be participating in at camp. So camp, we have long days and we do a lot, and we have very social days as well. There's a lot of different people that I can interact with throughout the course of a day. And so we very careful about also ensuring that in contrast to that and to balance that, there is enough time for campers to have free time, to be able to just take it easy, read, or just talk with some friends. In addition to that, camp is structured around both collaboration and agency. So there are many points in the day in which are very, they are invested in a project which requires collaboration and communication with other people at camp. This is also because they also have their personal project, which is very much self-driven, self-directed, self-designed, and we are there to support this. Our camper name, we've never had a camper named this. I think why we use this, but like say little Timmy is trying to build a wooden goat in the wood shop. That's his personal project. He's trying to make like a goat rocking horse. Our specialist in the shop is going to ensure that little Timmy is using all the tools correctly and safely. Make sure Timmy has a plan for how this project's going to get done during the course of our session. Make sure he's got everything he needs. But then if little Timmy decides he wants to hand cut the entire shape with a coping saw instead of using a jigsaw because he like the electric tools, that's his prerogative and he gets supported in doing that, and also the inverse. So really thinking about the opportunities in which important decision making is put in the hands of campers, and also about the moments in which we are more designing the experiences, because the point right now is that we're collaborating and we're doing something together next to one another. And that is very much with this intention of supporting individual development, as well as creating opportunities for connection so that people always feel like there's someone they can turn to or talk to should they need it. So our communication is essential. We also have constant check-ins with our staff, and Pearl and I are asking very pointed questions when we have check-ins with counselors, following up on how someone is doing that maybe had a rough night a few nights ago, or if there was some drama between campers because, you know, you put a bunch of preteens and teenagers in one space together and, you know, something's gonna happen at some point. Following up on that, making sure that, you know, any conflicts that happen are resolved, that we give space for them to be resolved, or to, if someone needs to keep talking, then we talk about it. This is our staff training as well. We have our classic staff training of just like, you know, this is how you engage with, this is how you maintain a cabin, this is what's appropriate. Like, these are appropriate questions to answer if a camper asks you. These are things that we think you should establish some boundaries around, and maintain those boundaries with campers and encourage them to have boundaries as well. We use ACA, American Camp Association resources and training courses. We also just have a lot of experience at this point, which we base our staff training off of, because we've been doing this camp for so long now. And we've also been adding new trainings every year. So for example, last summer was the first summer we did a trauma-informed practices training with our staff. And our staff were very enthusiastic about it, asked for more trainings like that. And so this summer we're going to be including, in addition to our trauma-informed practices training, also one around mental health first aid, which is a training that the ACA is offering. We are doing it ourselves, and then we are collecting resources in order to then share those resources with our counselors. While we don't have expectations of our counselors to be able to address every single problem that might arise with a camper, I don't want them to feel like they have to, because we have so much support available for them. Our counselors are very enthusiastic about wanting to have a lot of tools in their tool belt in order to be able to best support the campers they're responsible for in their cabin. So mental and physical health. In addition to that, we are also, particularly if it's a new camper, we are checking in with you, families, parents, guardians. For new campers, you'll get at minimum, one call from us during the summer, and it's going to be a progress report and be honest. We obviously are going to tell you about what a good time your camper is having, because they will be. And we're also going to tell you, you know, maybe they need a little bit more mail, or this thing came up and it was kind of a funny social interaction. Can you maybe offer us some insight as to like what the best way to engage with this is? Because you know your kid better than we do, and you know your kid best. And we do actively utilize parents as resources about their kids to help us address in the best way anything that might come up with a kid. Oftentimes this is not the case. We don't need to do this, but we don't forget that you all are resources and wells of knowledge about your own child. And we check in and we utilize that. In addition to that though, you know, you might want to be talking to your kid. We do not do phone calls at camp. We find that unfortunately, while like our inclination is to feel that it will feel good, it sometimes prompts homesickness or missing home for campers. And we want to try to create conditions in which it doesn't happen. But constant communication is as much possible. It's just not by phone. So campers write letters home. We stick them in snail mail. If a camper has something very urgent that they need you to know, like immediately, we'll scan the letter and we'll email it to you. Parents can send letters to camp. We share the address and everything you need to know. You can send letters, you can send care packages. You cannot send food in the care packages. Full disclaimer, in the office, we open every single care package, we unpack it, we make sure there's no food. We do not food in the cabins. It's not ideal. Campers don't appreciate it. It attracts bugs, other things. We'll keep the food though. If you want to feed the leadership team, we keep it in the office. We'll eat it gladly. but no food and care packages for your camper if you were intending for it to reach them. You can also write emails, and we print out the emails every single day and we hand them out at lunch. So letters and emails, we give them to counselors at the end of lunch, and when everybody goes up for rest and reading, bring this up, it gets distributed, everybody reads it, it's lovely. We also have an Instagram page, which is just for camp families. So it's a private Instagram account. Camp families have to request to follow it, and you need to tell us your handle so we know it's that we want to let you follow it. And that is where we post videos, pictures from camp, these small dispatches for families to see. We post to our Facebook page as well. We have a private family Facebook page as well. There are public posts that we are making, but we're not really prioritizing what we're posting for the public so much as just letting you know that your kid is doing great and they're having fun. Campers cannot have cell phones at camp. If they do, we're going to take the SIM card out as soon as they get off the bus, and we'll give the SIM card back. We'll make sure it gets installed correctly back into their phone when they're leaving camp. A reason that they can have their phone at camp, or their Kindle, whatever the device might be, so that they can listen to music or read in the cabin. These devices should not be leaving their cabins though. In addition to this, if a camper wants to bring a camera, they want to bring like a little tape recorder, they can do that, but there should be an awareness that if it leaves the cabin, it's very likely and possible that it will get lost. And so this is really a consideration to make when bringing valuables to camp. It might not be electronics. It might be like, they got this designer bag. They feel really cool when they have it on them. That's great. They're not going to tell you point blank not to bring it, but there should be an awareness that you bring your designer bag to camp, a space where we are constantly, like getting dirty in a shop space. It's very possible that something will happen to it. Consider what you want to bring to camp. So that's just a little bit more about, physical, mental health at camp, communication back with each other, and then just this added little bonus of maybe don't bring nice stuff to camp. But little time check, it's 5:54 right now. Does anybody have any questions for Pearl and I? Or if not, I'm curious if we can pose a question to all of you, which is, you can answer this briefly in more detail, go off mute, or you can type it in the chat. But I'm just curious how you found Beam Camp, or, why you joined us on this call today. Beam Camp is potentially a good fit for your camper. Ava, I think we can hear you actually, if you'd also. Maybe we'll call upon the person we planted in the audience. Brian Cohen, why do you think Beam Camp is a good fit for young people?
Hi, folks. I'm just saying hello. My name is Brian. I am related to Pearl. I and my partner Danny founded Beam Camp 17 years ago, and I'm always happy to meet prospective new campers, camp parents. If I can answer any questions about why I started a camp or what kind of camp we have, I'm happy to do so. Otherwise, just wanted to say hello. Eva, were you going to try to answer that question?
I wasn't sure.
You weren't sure. All right.
Oh, anyhow, well, Ori, my 11-year-old, he did a couple of summer camps locally in Brooklyn for the Bean Camp, and it's really right up his alley. He never done sleepaway camps before, just local camps during the summer. So this is kind of our first sleepaway camp, and we're trying to see if it's the right fit. But as far as like creating and building and doing his own project, he's kind of like right up his alley, and he's been doing this on his own quite a bit, but having a, he loves cardboard and building 3D figures with his, favorite glue guns and stuff like that. But this is definitely taking it to another level, which is something really, I think this is something he would really enjoy.
Excellent. Emily? Thanks for sharing, Eva. Hi.
Hi. Similarly, we have a son who loves to build and that sort of thing. And somebody had recommended this camp to us because of just knowing our son and that sort of thing. So that's why we're listening in. So thank you guys for all the information.
No problem. Has your son been to camp before?
He's done overnight camps, but he has not been to beam camp. So he's done some, he did a 2-week one last summer. Yeah.
Got it. Excellent. Hi, Maura.
Hi. So I was curious. So I had also I had learned about Beam. Sorry about my dog. From whose children had gone there. And I'm just kind of curious, what is the percentage of kids who have gone to the Beam day camps? I mean, are there, we don't live in New York. And I'm just kind of I know her kids had gone to Beam day camps and then went to the Beam sleepaway camp. And Ava, the other mother, was talking about her child doing that. So I'm just kind of curious, if you have a child who's coming in without that kind of background, is it easy for them? What's the mix?
So specifically around Beam day camps, I'll take this question because I ran the day camp for a few years and we don't run the day camp anymore. We've suspended that program because we've really bulked up a lot of our other summer programming and there was no longer capacity. So I know a few campers who were in the Beam day camp running it. They are teenagers. They're at the older end of our camp attendees.
Yeah. 17 or 16, and he's
but
still
I
going.
will totally, yeah. But I will also offer though, I mean, we do work in we work in schools during the academic year. So there are campers who are coming that have had some exposure to Beam Center, but is in generally speaking, the academic space of their classrooms through a project that we've co-designed with their teacher. And while it definitely is driven by a similar ethos and pedagogy, it is a dramatically different experience than sleepaway camp. Very much as an organic community that we all come together. It coalesces for 1 month and then release fallow for a year.
And I think to your question, Moira, the answer is most new campers are new to us. So and the percentage of returning campers is around 50% per summer. So there are the other 50% that are new, and of that group, there's a very small group who have some Beam related experience, and so and it's always been the same way. So we approach all new campers, whether we know them or not, in a similar way. There isn't some club that some will be excluded from. So that I think that it might be what you were alluding to.
Yeah, or just even sort of that feeling of, it's always, I think it's much easier when the kids, there's a mix of people who maybe know each other and don't know each other versus if you're one of a small percentage of. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. There's certainly a familiarity. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, there is that familiarity, but we also have new campers at every age. And I feel like that's important to offer as well. It's not just, our new campers are not just the youngest kids coming in, but we have new campers generally at every age group. Yep. And also something that we'd like to facilitate this year is that if a new camper feels a desire to talk to somebody from camp prior to when the session starts, we would love to start fostering those connections prior, just so that people can arrive and already feel like they have a person or a few people that they know. because it is daunting. You know, it's a lot of new people. They don't feel new by the end of the summer, though. You know, everyone's name by the end. Any other immediate questions anyone has? You're also all welcome to email Pearl and myself. Do not feel like you're on the spot right now.
And the other thing I would offer is that if you are in New York or you're going to be in New York, with advance notice, you're welcome to visit us in Brooklyn. Our sort of main shop and office is in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and we maintain a space on Governor's Island as well. But if you just let us know and we can arrange the appropriate time, we'd be happy to show you around.
If no one else has
Great.
questions,
Okay.
we can wrap up.
I'm going to quickly drop our emails into the chat so that you can, you know, you have them here. We're also going to send an email tomorrow thanking you for coming. So you will have it there as well. I think I emailed all of you prior to the session as well. But Pearl and I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions about camp, please let us know. If you are interested in camp, or even just like, you know, progressing the conversation, fill out a new camper application. There's no commitment in doing that. It's just to give us a little bit of information about your kid. We set up an interview, you know, we get to talk all together for a while, get to know each other. We want to make sure that camp is the right fit for your kid as well. And we want to make sure that we are prepared and we're equipped to support them. And so a new camper application, very low stakes, just lets us know a little bit about your kid. We have a meeting, we talk to each other. If we do it rather quickly, you might even make it in time for our early discount, which is 15% off of camp tuition that expires December 31st, or rather, you know, in the new year. And you know, it's always cool to take advantage of something like that, but you know, just be in touch. We'll be happy to hear from you.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're gonna call it a night.
All right, great.